Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having an amazing day. Welcome to Let's Talk with Gugu Keswa. Real talk, real life, real people. I'm very happy today to have our guest, Lerato. But before I get into unpacking Lerato and her life, I just want to let you know who I am. For those of you who don't know, my name is Gugu Keswa. I am the founder of Balix Dance and Entertainment. I'm a musician, an artist, an activist, a mom, and a speaker. So Let's Talk with Guru Keswa is a platform where we give real people with real life stories a platform to talk about what they're doing, to inspire us, to motivate us. You know, it's just a real platform to talk, real talk. Okay, so let's get into straight into it. Today my guest is Lerato. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Just to tell you a little bit about Lerato. Lerato is a mom. Lerato is a graduate from the, where did you go again?
Johnson C. Smith University.
You, America, guys. Like, she literally went to America. She has a political science degree. And apart from all of that, she is the national spokesperson of Action SA and a mayoral candidate, guys. Mayor. I am softing today. Welcome, Lerato.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for giving me your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's good to be here.
So I think I've been doing too much talking. It's definitely time to get you talking because the interview is about you.
Yeah.
So first of all, Lerato, I just want to know more about you. Please tell me about yourself. Where did you grow up? What do you like doing? What is your career path? Just tell me more about yourself.
Thank you. Kuguyo, this question is always when you're being interviewed, whether it's for a job, who are you? I think it's the most important question anyone could be asked. I think I've grappled with this question throughout my life because, we're all trying to figure out what our purpose is, why we're here, why were you born, what are your talents, what are you supposed to do, what are you supposed to do with your life, and how are you supposed to impact the world. And for me, so what shapes me? Who am I? I think I used to describe myself as the daughter of, Dithakazelo tsaka, to say, I am a Mutaung,
Yeah,
Sekolo sa Ditlou, sa Dikwena,
and you're Ngobeni now. Lerato
I'm Ngobeni now.
Ngobeni. That's how
Yes,
it's in Ngobeni.
I'm Ngobeni now. And so I would describe myself as that.
Yeah.
But as I've grown older, I realized that I am part of a much bigger, broader energy.
Wow.
I think that I'm part of a really huge cosmic energy that is supposed to bring about certain things that affect the world. So, in other words, for example, I was raised by a teacher. So, my natural knack for education comes from my mom who taught and my mom who valued education. And because she passed away early in life, I learned to get up and do stuff for myself. So I'm a person who loves to read. I'm a person who loves to cook. I'm a person who loves to spend time alone.
A loner.
I'm not a loner per se, but I value the time that I get to spend with Lerato because we give so much of ourselves to the world. If you think about it, we're always selling. I think we're all salespeople. We're always selling something. And, even here, I sell my story. So telling my story is selling it to somebody else so that somebody else can resonate with it. And so for me to spend time with myself, whether I'm listening to the birds, whether I'm having a glass of wine, whether I'm reading, I read in the bath a lot. That's my favorite. Yes, because when you're in the bath, there's no disturbance. There's no one asking you for anything. If the kids knock, you're like, I'm bathing.
Yeah.
I'm bathing. So I read in the bath a lot, and that's how I catch up with my reading. I do love to catch up with my friends when I have the time. And so I'm a very family oriented person, I think. Because my family got fragmented so early in life, I value, the connecting of family. And so my family is a very eclectic one. I don't have a traditional sense of family. My family is so broad, and they bring me so much joy, and I absolutely honor all of them.
That's beautiful. And And where did you grow up?
I grew up in both Soweto, so I was born and raised in Soweto.
Okay.
And then
Josie
halfway
girl.
through my life, I'm a total city
Josie
girl.
girl.
I don't have any rural upbringing,
City
though
girls.
I have a strong rural background from my grandmother's side of things. So I grew up in Soweto. I was born and bred in Soweto. We lived in Middlelands, and then halfway through my life, I think I was around 12, 13, we moved to Eastbank, which is part of Alexandra, and so I spent a great deal of my life in the north and a great deal of my life with the community of Alexandra, which really grounds me. Even though we no longer sort of live in Alex now, we live in suburbia.
Yeah.
But my Soweto and Alex roots kind of keep me grounded.
Yeah.
They keep my feet on the ground. To know that the life that we live now is a total gift. It could be different, and so even when I go home, so my mother's people come from Linyenye,
Okay,
which is
where?
in Limpopo.
Oh.
Tanin,
Tanin, yes.
the Tanin.
Sorry.
And then my father's people,
Uh-huh.
Soweto, so
Okay.
they migrate from Maseru into the Free State into Sebokeng. So,
Okay.
so the connection there is a little bit more sparse. Some of them, went to KZN, to a place called Ngutu,
Okay.
where you find Sotho-speaking people
Oh,
in
okay.
KwaZulu.
Wow.
And so some of them went there. So we come from a very diverse, sort of, broad cultural and regional background.
Okay. So, my second question for you is, what are the challenges that you faced in your personal life, and how did you overcome them?
Phew. I think I still am going through challenges.
Every day a challenge.
Um,
Well, I know you just
Life.
touched on your mom's.
My mom.
passing.
I think my mom's passing was the greatest of challenges I've ever faced. Because you know your parents are your cushion. Your parents are your umbrella. Your parents are the wings under which you can hide. You can find comfort, solace, and all of that. And when your mom specifically, and I'm not saying that all moms are great,
Yeah.
because the reality is that they're not. Some people don't have a close knit
Moms,
relationship
yeah.
with their moms. But my mother was a very hands-on mom, very strict mother. My mother was strict as hell. My mother was not playing.
And
My
how
mother
old were
was
you
not playing.
when she passed
I
on?
was 14 when my mom passed.
Sure. Condolences. You were very
Yeah,
young.
I was
Grade
very
eight.
young.
Speaking of high school, what was
Yeah,
Form
I
1?
was actually
What?
form
One.
3.
I'm a 2000.
Form
They used to
3.
call it form.
Yeah,
not
luckily
grade.
form 3.
Okay.
Actually, I think it was at the latter part of form 2,
Well, that's very
into form 3.
How did you
So
overcome that? That's such a hard challenge.
I still haven't overcome it.
So how do you cope?
I cope by living through her memory. So I remember her a lot. She's been my compass a lot. She's
Okay.
been the reason, and this is the thing about values, right? I know the things that my mother valued. I was also fortunate enough to meet my mother-in-law soon after my mom died.
Okay.
And she sincerely softened the blow of
Okay.
not having a mother, because
She took that part for you.
she
That's
became
beautiful.
my mother, and she is just we just lost it almost 2 years ago now.
Condolences.
So I've lost two moms.
Ooh.
Um,
Sure.
but what gets me through
Condolences.
is their memories, the memories of who they were, the values they've instilled in me. That I don't want. I always, those of us who believe in Christ always think about, what would Jesus do?
No, WWJD.
JD, right?
I remember that bracelet.
I always think, what would my mother do? What would my mother think?
That would be WWMD.
MD, yeah.
What would
my
mom
dad
do?
What
You
would
should
mom
make
do?
those actually.
Yeah. So I think about that. Every time I feel like my life is veering off, I remember them, and I know that, there's that thing. What drives me is the memory that we really and truly and sincerely are in this generation, our ancestors' wildest dreams.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And do
Yeah.
you have any more challenges you want to share?
I have many challenges.
The reason I'm emphasizing the thing
Yeah.
about challenges,
Yeah.
because with social media, we are living in this picture perfect life,
Yeah.
where you put filters,
Yeah.
and on your page you always post yourself happy.
Yeah.
Like you, I don't know if you've ever seen a post of someone like bursting into tears.
Yeah.
So I feel like the society we live in today doesn't create a space
Yeah.
for people's pain.
You're correct.
It doesn't create a space for what people are actually going through.
Yeah.
And when you look at statistics for depression, when you look at statistics for suicide,
Yeah.
when you look at statistics for drug addiction, it is
Yeah.
at an all-time high.
Yeah.
So it's very clear that this picture-perfect society that is being portrayed to us on these platforms is not it. So I like to use this platform with women like strong women like you to share what they went through,
Yeah.
so that the person who's watching this can say, okay, she went through that, so can I.
So I really appreciate this because it's so real, it's so true, particularly for young people who are growing up in this age. And it's a travesty for us parents who aren't teaching them because we think we're in a different age. The reality is that, the principles of life don't change. Social media can change, where we live can change, but the principles of life don't change. So the principle of hard work is the same, whether you are in, a society like ours, or whether you're in a society like our parents. And so for me, the challenges I've had many challenges, and I think life is a series of challenges. Life is a series of solving problems, and that's what I've realized. And we want to live problem-free lives, but the reality is, every day of your life, you're solving a problem. If you're passing through traffic, you're solving the problem of getting where you need to go on time. You don't realize that it's subconscious, but that's what you're doing. When you're waking up in the morning, you're solving the problem of somebody who have woken up having passed away. And so for me, I've had lots. So before my mom died, and I haven't been speaking up, I haven't spoken about this, I don't think publicly, many times. I think this would be the second occasion that I have. My mom passed away when I was 14, but when I was 13 the year before, so the end of my 13th year, I was gang raped. And my mom was there, and I believe that my mom would have died that same year because my grandfather had passed, and my mom, in the same week that my grandfather passed, my mom went into a coma, and we all delayed the burial of my grandfather because we thought we want to have a double burial. And when we hit 2 weeks, we decided, well, we're going to have to bury my grandfather. We can't keep him any longer. And my mother came out of her coma literally 2 days before. And by the grace of God, she was able to be there for my grandfather's funeral. And, so when I was going through the rape experience, I was 13. I was literally 13. I had come out of my confirmation at church, having denounced Satan and all his evil ways. I then get gang raped by a group of 5 men in Soweto.
Oh my God.
And I say 5 because that's what I remember. I just don't know now because they take turns and they have, they enclose, put something on my face. And so my mom then lived with me for the following year, and then she passed away in September of '94. So I really believe that, God's angels kind of had it in the stars that there was no way my mom could pass away before that incident. I would need her. And so she was kept from me, to be able to find myself and find my voice again, even post that experience. And then the following year, I lost my mom, right? I lost my mom. And then a couple of years later, I lost my dad. So my whole family kind of, it was just my sister and I, who were left. I have battled family storms. When somebody, central dies in your family, some families completely fall apart. I've had to be at loggerheads and fight my aunt, for treating us so badly, for stealing, our monies that were left for us, for our sustenance, my sister and I. So there's been a lot of things. I have been abused by a partner, although my mother's memory would not let me live that through that or live it down or not or accept that. I have fought it, and I think all of those challenges, all of those, I've been bankrupt. When you feel like your whole sense of security can be pulled from under the rug, from under your feet. That's hectic stuff,
But
right?
look at you today, looking
Um,
so. She looks amazing. Look how beautiful she is. So
well,
what? How did she conquer all of this?
well, one, black don't crack. Two,
Yes, darling, melanin.
black don't crack. This melanin is a gift. I'm telling you,
Okay.
melanin is a gift.
Mhm.
That's one. But two, God never gives you stuff that you can't handle.
Wow.
And I know it sounds philosophical because when you're going through, you're saying to God, look, take this stuff away. Like, I don't want to be strong. And let me be weak. I'm okay to be weak.
Wow.
But I think that we go through what we go through so that we can use it as ministry for other people.
Wow.
So I didn't get through this because Rato is so tough. I mean, I read. First of all, that's my superpower. I read. So I read other people's stories and I realize, and it makes my life seem like, oh my goodness. I was watching another YouTube video the other day of a woman who's now a businesswoman in Kenya, who talks about how she became a sex slave in Nigeria.
Wow.
Just trying to find her feet, raise her children, because she didn't have a sense of love. She didn't love. She didn't know what love was. She went through 3 failed marriages. She meets a guy. She goes to Nigeria, and she wants to buy products for her business. She gets there. She meets people in the market and all of this, and somebody Gugu comes along. It's like foreign country. Hey, where are you from? You connect. And Gugu says, no, let me show you a good time. Gugu shows me a good time. Long and short of it, it's a scam. She wakes up the next day, she's got nothing, her passport, nothing,
Oh my
literally.
gosh.
And that's how she gets into sex work in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But she had left her children with her family in Kenya, having promised that she would be back in 2 weeks.
Sure.
And so she gets stuck in this thing. So when I watch stories like that, I remind myself to say, yo, Lerato. So,
Yeah.
so because you can. Because you just gotta pluck up the chutzpah, the courage in you to say, there was something greater that I'm here for. I'm not just a passerby. I'm here to do stuff. And no matter how small it is, Martin Luther King said, not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great.
Wow.
And greatness is determined by whatever you believe you are here to do, whatever service you believe you can afford the world. And so your service really is also that ministry. Those difficulties is your service, to be able to help somebody else and say it's going to be okay. You're going to meet somebody else who is going through a marriage breakdown, and you are the pillar. You are the person that they remember at a time they're going through stuff. And so that's really what I think gets me through. And believe me, I've had many down moments.
But yeah, you're up. City girl, she is up.
I've had like everyone. I think you don't want to glorify pain and distress and all of that. But I think all of us have got a very unique and powerful story.
Exactly.
It's just that some people know how to package their stories more than others or better than others. I mean, um, um, what is her name again? Zoleka Mandela.
Yeah, I know.
Zoleka wrote that book When Hope Whispers.
Yeah.
Right? And as people would look at me and say, oh, Lerato, as people would look at other people or her, be like, oh, you come from this great family, whatever. And you read her story, and you read the stuff that she has been through. When I read that, I'm like, oh, Lerato, God saved you. I don't have substance abuse issues.
Yeah.
I don't have breast cancer issues. I've never been really
lost a child. I know.
lost my child or things like that. So all of us. But they do say women hold up half the sky. I'm all up in here for the women. We do a whole lot.
And what an inspiration! Like women like Lerato are so inspirational. And that's why I actually have this platform about Let's Talk with Guru Keswa, because I don't think you need an Emmy award, or you don't need to be a star or a celebrity to be celebrated, to motivate and inspire. I mean, your story alone. And before I even move on to my next question, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the pain that you went through.
Thank you.
And apologize on behalf of all of those. But I'm so proud of you. And I really hope that all of you out there, even other rape survivors, just listening to everything that Lerato was saying, that you can take something from it and don't stay in that rut, and just look at her as an example that if she can do it, so can you. So moving on to my next question. I've looked at your bio, so I've seen that you have a lot of corporate world experience. I will post her bio as well for you guys to read through it. It's very impressive. I see you have a lot of corporate experience as a sustainability specialist and a corporate executive. But then, plot twist. That's when you attended the John C. Smith, I got it right this time, University in America. And you graduated cum laude in political science.
Summa cum laude,
girl. I saw that. I saw the word first. I was like, is this summa cum laude, girl, in political science and government. Well, firstly, congratulations. Woo! This is where we have the whole black girl magic. Congratulations on that achievement. But what I would like to know is, so when did your passion for politics start? And what made you decide to leave your corporate space and go overseas and study a political degree? What inspired that? Where does it all start?
It's important to trace back to your childhood memories. So for you to find your passion or to find your purpose, it is important to connect the dots. So like I said, my mom was a teacher. My mom was a history teacher.
Okay.
And so you can imagine, the history of Napoleon Bonaparte, the history of Mandela and the struggle for South Africa.
Wow, yes.
Came through her teaching of that history. And she would teach me to practice her class teaching.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was her dummy.
Wow.
So she would teach me for every lesson she would try to prepare for her class. She would teach me. And so I remember that she died at 14. So you can imagine that I was doing this stuff with her from when I was really young. And so I got to learn about politics, about law, and so
and you also grew up in the apartheid
in
the most revolutionary time of it, actually, at your age.
So we used to talk about that. My mom, the first, I think one of my birthdays, I think I was 7 or 8. She bought me a wireless radio, a green one. I'll never forget it. And inside was a cassette tape of one of Brenda Fassie's records, and she had fast forwarded it to the spot where the song was My Black President.
We love that song, Amanda.
And so and she said she had a note that said press play. So I pressed play, and the year 1963 blasted out. I still remember the lyrics till now.
Okay.
And so I got really interested in who was this person, who was this guy. I started asking around who
so
was
it
this
started
guy?
really young. But now here you are in the corporate space, and then what? Boom! Calling comes back that I'm leaving this and I'm going overseas to study politics.
Yeah, you see, life doesn't come to you in a straight line.
Not linear.
Life is not a straight line. Sometimes you do what you gotta do so you can do what you wanna do.
Wow. Okay.
And I think Denzel says it best. Denzel Washington. You've got to do what you got to do to get to do what you want to do. And sometimes what you've got to do is a conduit or a platform for you to get to do what you want to do. So my corporate life has prepared me very well to be in politics.
For challenges of working with people.
Not just working with people, but being professionally astute.
Okay, which is a big thing.
Which is a big thing right now. We're suffering,
every industry.
From politicians who have good rhetoric, who can say good things, but they can't do, they can't build, they can't create.
Yeah.
You know,
They can't
they
show up on
just
time for the meeting.
yeah. So
Punctuality.
what we have are good orators. You don't need many orators. You need many workers. So I worked a lot in construction. In
Okay.
construction,
Wow, very
you
broad.
need one engineer, and you need like 5, 6, depending on what you're doing, 10 artisans, and that's life.
Okay.
The society we're living in now, we've got 10 engineers and 2 artisans, and the reality is life doesn't work like that, right? So there's an analogy of ants, you know, worker ants. You know, worker ants. You've got millions and millions
Yeah.
of worker ants, right? And you've got one queen
Yes.
for all those worker ants. You can't have 5 queens.
Can only have
And
one. Same with the bees, that's all. Hey.
you see, so nature teaches us something, and for me, all of my experiences have literally prepared me for this moment, and
Okay.
I wouldn't change anything. Let me just say this. When you talk about challenges and glorifying the American education, I you can imagine that I lost my mom young, so my educational journey got interrupted.
Okay.
When people were getting their, going into varsity, in our, I finished school early. I finished school at 17.
Yeah, so you went Form 3 already when you were 14.
Yeah, so I finished early. And so when my peers were going into, first year and all of that, I had lost my mom. My family is in disarray. It's a disaster. My father is losing her mind because he's lost his life partner, and we've got to survive. So my corporate experience comes from get to do the things you got to do. I had to go in, I had to work, I had to work.
And you did it.
Right?
Many
And I
people would fall
worked. I
into
worked for
addiction
many years before I could. So I went to varsity in the US. I dropped everything. I had built up quite a career, but I dropped everything. I'd managed the World Cup. I had done what I could do, and I dropped everything. And at 32 years.
Wow, were you 32? Wow.
I was 32 years.
That's
And
so
I graduated at 36.
That's so inspirational. You see, it's never too late.
Yeah.
Like, you can do it.
Yeah.
What an inspiration.
Yeah.
And then another question I have for you is, you're a mother.
Yep.
Your son is 16 years old?
16.
So, as I said, this is a real talk platform. So
Yeah.
I like to go into the real issues.
Yeah.
Was it not, how did it feel for you to have to leave him behind? Because obviously now you're a mom and you have to take care of your kids, and then here's this opportunity to finally go to school, to finally go overseas. So my first question is, how did you navigate around having to leave him to pursue your dream? How did you make that decision? How did you navigate around those emotions?
Yeah. Well, let me disclose that I cried all the way to the US after I left.
I'm
and
sure.
I think I cried for a month and a half after that.
Yes, because also you're in a new place now, you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
So how did you also navigate? That's a double question.
Yeah.
Leaving him, and
Yeah.
also how did you navigate your way around as a black girl from?
Well, thankfully I went to the south. So there was lots of black girl magic in the south. So
Yeah.
I was in North Carolina. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I left my son at 6. He was 6 years old. It was really it was tough. It was tough. But I knew that this was a sacrifice, and it was a big sacrifice for both of us, and that, even though I was a mom, I'm still Lerato. I still have my passions. I still have what I want to achieve, and I also wanted to be a happy mom. When your dreams don't come true, it makes you a miserable parent, because now, so that's, I did not want that for myself, and I did not want that for my son. I also wanted that moment to be an educating one for him later. I want that memory of that to be something that can inspire him in his life later on. If he ever faces something and it's difficult, he must remember that, my mom kind of made this big sacrifice and left. So
How long were you there?
we were there for 5 years. Well, the
Was
beautiful
that long?
well, the beautiful story is that he came to join me later on. When I found my feet, I sent for him. He came.
You literally couldn't live without him anymore.
We were in school together. So he went to school, I went to school. And
yeah, you just literally couldn't live without him. You had to get him there.
I also wanted him. There's nothing that opens your eyes more than being in another culture,
Yeah.
being vulnerable,
Traveling.
realizing,
Yes.
realizing that your world isn't the only world. There's so many worlds
5
out
years,
there. You know.
Rato.
Yeah.
That's a big sacrifice.
Yeah.
But it went by.
No, it went by. But you asked me a very important question around how did you cope. I think if there's one right decision I ever made in my life was to choose the person I would have a child with. It was not abrupt. It was not um, haphazard. It was not happenstance.
Yeah.
I literally sat down and asked myself, what, who, and what type of person would I want as a father of my child? And my criteria was very simple. It sounds simple now to me, but at that time I realized just how deep it was.
Okay.
How deep I was as a child at that time. I chose to have my child before my 30s. I was 27 when I had him.
Okay.
I chose that specifically because my mom died at 46, and she was 32 when she had me.
Okay.
And I always regretted that she should have had me earlier so that I could be older when she died.
The grieving.
So I then made a decision to say I'm going to have my child before my 30s, so that if anything happens to me, they will be old enough. If anything happens to me around the time that my mom passed, that they would be old enough to be able to manage their lives. So I asked for, there's a B, so we have good luck coming up over
yes,
here.
as long as we don't get stung, please.
We won't get stung, and these are creatures of life, they know. So I asked for two things. I said I want somebody in my life who would love our child intensely. I also wanted somebody who I could never hate.
Okay.
Those are the only two things.
Unconditional love.
Yeah, somebody I could never hate, despite what would transpire between us.
Yes.
Because I had friends who had children with people that they just in the end could not stand.
Baby daddy drama.
And it was total drama, and it was tough, for the children.
Yeah.
So I chose only those two things. Somebody who would love the child intensely, despite him and I, and somebody I would never hate.
Okay.
And as a result of that, when I was leaving, well, thank God he's my husband now. Okay. He wasn't then, but I asked him. I sat down with him and I said, look, this thing has come up for me. What are we going to do? And he said, well, I'm here.
Oh, that's amazing. And support. So knowing that your child, that's how you cope.
And that's how I cope. But again, technology was great because I could do homework with him via Skype.
Yeah, you could still
I would call him, we would be on Skype and we would do homework, and he would take screenshots of his homework and he would send it to me. I would print it out, I would sign.
Wow.
Scan, send it back. The school would have
sacrifice you made.
You know, I would have Skype meetings with the school for parents meetings. So my husband now would be, at school for the physical meeting, and they would Skype me in, and I would be in the meeting. So we managed that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so inspirational.
Yeah.
I love how you still went for your dream, and it still happened for you.
Yeah.
And you have to make sacrifice. To me, I hear that there's always a form of sacrifice for something that you really want and for something that's better.
Well, remember that the Lord sacrificed
His life,
the only begotten Son, right?
Yeah.
For us to have sanity.
So yeah.
So life is a series of sacrifices.
Okay.
And yes, while you're going through the sacrifice, remember that you're in the fiery furnace. So when you are in the fire, gold comes out and it's in the fire. Diamond, a diamond was once cold, leshala. But at the end it becomes a diamond. But there's a process. You don't just find it as a diamond, right?
Yeah.
It's got to go through a particular process, and half the time that particular process is a pressing one. Like the olive. If you want oil out of the olive, you gotta press it.
Wow.
And so our lives are about squeezing us, and when we're squeezed, that's when humanity finds its most profound innovation. We found electricity because humanity needed, that constant push for light. and so somebody worked out something, God inspired somebody, Thomas Edison, to bring us
with the light
electricity
bulb.
and the light bulb.
Well,
So
I just want to, you know, you're the first person I've met in my life who's taken all these quotes, because all the quotes that you say, I've heard them,
yeah,
but you lived them. Like, you
yeah,
took these metaphors and
yeah,
you personified them.
yeah.
And I think that's absolutely amazing. So we were supposed to stop, but I'm not going to stop. I'm definitely taking advantage because life is short and I have a whole mayor to be. So if you're still willing to talk to me, I'd
Yeah.
love to finish off my interview with you. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I'd love you to tell us more about your Civics Academy.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it in your bio, what it is, what it's about. What I've realized, though, you said the objective of this academy was to facilitate young people's involvement in democracy. Can you tell me more about Civics Academy?
Look, we all know that South Africa is a democracy, right? We came up 1994, democracy came, Kumbaya, Madiba is our president, and all of this. And somehow we all fell asleep again.
Yeah.
And we thought that, we had voted in our heroes and they were going to make all our lives okay. Well, a democracy doesn't work like that, right? The reality is, for a democracy to thrive, you need each generation to reinvent and reproduce the values of democracy. And so, which are that you need people who are, number one, educated. Because if you're not educated, you can't run a democracy. Uneducated people don't participate well in democracy. Uneducated people, or poorly educated people, let me put it that way because I don't want to leave anyone out. Poorly educated people make poorer choices. That's a fact. We all grew up, your mom was, yeah, go to school,
even
so
now,
that, you can, you can better your life. It's not necessary that if you don't go to school, you can't better your life, because you can. But when you know more, Maya Angelou, you say a quote, I'm a quote person.
I love
Maya Angelou says, do what you know until you know better.
Yes.
When you know better, do better.
Right?
Yes. So when you begin to know better, when you begin to learn more, know more, see more, you make better choices. And so the civic education part was about that. Was about saying, we missed the boat somewhere.
Yeah.
You see that our education system is like one of the poorest in the world. And that's a travesty of where our government, it's actually sad that our post-apartheid government has not done good for our education. In fact, people were more educated, more awake, more woke in today's terms. Our Bantu educated people were more woke than what we have currently, because the system we have currently dumbs our children down. For somebody to pass with an average of 30% means, if you get 30% in class, it means you did not attend, or you attended class, you never studied, you just wrote what you knew. That's it. You didn't apply anything, you did nothing else. You can imagine that we will never produce any medical practitioners, ever. There's no medical school in the world that's going to accept students who come out with 30% of knowledge of mathematics and science and biology. It's a fact. So when you're saying 30%, you're basically saying that the apartheid system that said that black people, black African people, by and large, are only going to be bricklayers, they're only going to be Daga boys. And that's the generation that you're saying should come through. So that program was about saying that as young people, if you look at the revolutionaries of all of our time, they were all young. They all died young, You look at Malcolm X in their 30s, Martin Luther King in their 30s, Steve Biko in their 30s, late 30s, Thomas Sankara, late 30s. I mean, so that doesn't come when you're old. When you're old, this stuff comes when you're young. And when you're young, you've got the latitude, the space, the energy, the imagination, and the passion to do the stuff. Life hasn't knocked you down yet.
Yeah.
Life hasn't taken your dreams away. And so it is important to inject these values, these democratic values,
Yeah.
in young people, so that because they are going to carry the future of our country. And if we don't espouse those in them, then we're missing the boat, and that's really where we are now.
Actually, my next question is in this topic, and you hit it like the hit on the nail. What I want to say. So, with regards to young people and democracy today, even citizens, not even just young people, I personally feel from the conversations that I have and from the spaces I walk in, and just generally talking to people, the attitude of people towards politics and government is one of apathy.
Yeah.
It's apathetic.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know what apathy means, because you know score sometimes higher,
Yeah.
it means people don't care.
Yeah.
Like
checked out.
Yeah, no, they have no concern.
Yeah.
Like they have no interest. So in your opinion, why should people vote? And then there's this other thing that's going around that says, even if I vote, I've heard so many people say this, old people and young people alike. My vote doesn't matter anyway. So what is your view on this, and why do you think people should participate in voting?
Well, this is not just about voting. This is about life in general. You never check out of your own life, ever, ever, because you know that human beings are the only species that can exercise agency to the degree that they can alter their life overnight.
Wow.
And all it takes is a decision. So you could be down and out. How many stories do you know of people when they tell you, I was down and out, and in my down and out, I found my hand started cracking. I took something from my garden. I started to, the next thing, I'm now producing hand cream. And they are millionaires. How many people like stories like that, And so you never check out of your own life. In this instance, our own life is our country. We can never check out of our country. Because if we check out of our country, I don't know where you're going to go. I don't know where we're going to go. We might as well be dead. And we live on a continent that doesn't have too many options. Particularly South Africans who are labeled xenophobic and all of this. I don't know if South Africa fails, where it is we're going to run. So for me, it's not about any other thing. It is about the selfishness of saying, I want our country to be viable, to be optional for many generations to come, for our children to come. So I want future generations, my child, to choose to live everywhere else, and not because they must go and live everywhere else. So you see that we are complaining how we have lots of foreign nationals and who are here because their countries are distressed. They don't want to be there, or they can't. They want to be there, but they can't in most instances because they don't have good livelihoods there. So you can imagine if that was to happen to South Africa. So that apathy, I understand it fully. It's something we empathize with, because we know that the current politics have really taken the soul out of people because they've stolen so much. But we gave them that power. We can take it away. All the politicians. If you want to punish a politician,
through a vote.
It's through a vote. And all what you need is collective, the collective mood and consciousness. So for example, when corruption was breaking out in our country, it was like, what's corruption? But here's the thing that I want my people, in particular Black African people, to understand. If white apartheid stealing is our barometer, then that's very low. That can never be our barometer, right? The humanity of blackness is a humanity of Ubuntu. Black people have a humanity of a win-win. Win-win. We all win. There's enough for all of us. There's abundance for all of us. But we have allowed perverted cultures, perverted politics to infiltrate our humanity. And we forgot that. And now we are the worst of that culture that we're trying to expropriate.
We are free to be dumb.
Oh. Oh.
Freedom.
Oh. Oh. That hurts. That hurts my heart.
Painful.
That hurt my heart. That hurt my heart. But But let me tell you,
But that's what I heard from everything you're saying and how you worded it so well. That's what I hear. That actually we are free to be dogs. We are not free.
No. So, so we are the ones we've been waiting for. We really are.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change. And there is no culture, there is no people, there is no savior. Just like in your own life, you know, when we wallow, we cry, whatever. The reality is life doesn't care. Do you know that? The truth is, life, the principle of life, the sun comes out, whether we are happy or sad. The sun comes out.
That's very true.
And so we have to realize that whatever it is we've been waiting for, it is us.
Wow, guys, you are the change. Whatever you're waiting for is us.
Whatever we've been waiting for, it's already here.
Okay, let me move into two more questions.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Wow, this has been so, I'm so inspired, guys. I'm sure you guys, when you watch this as well, you're just going to be like, wow. So I see you also did Harvard, girl. Like the one over the sea, like the Harvard. You were the program director for African Studies.
Yeah.
It says. Can you just tell us a little bit about this before I go into your role at Action SA and before we conclude?
So, when I talk about the fact that educated people, when you've got educated, you make better choices. And the reality is we belong to a global system that respects knowledge, right? You get paid for what you know. So you apply for a job, they hire you because you're experienced in your craft, right? No one would hire me to teach anyone ballet. No one.
Because you don't have the expertise.
No one. Even if I came and said, all you do is point your toes. No self-respecting or serious organization would hire me as a director of ballet. Okay. No one. Okay? And so remember that I spoke about my corporate experience having prepared me to be where I am. It did the same thing for Harvard. So I get roped into Harvard because Harvard wanted to break into Africa. Harvard had never had legs, a physical presence on the African continent.
Wow.
And to do that, you need to put together a program like that or any project like that. You need somebody who's well organized. You need someone who has good project management skills. And my corporate experience
and all tied in,
tied in. So I they say that luck is when opportunity meets preparedness. Yes. So I was prepared because I had managed a World Cup project in South Africa, in Rustenburg. And so what would setting up Harvard be on the African continent? So I got given that opportunity. And I did that, and
so now there's a space for me and any other African person. If we go and research, there's a little space there of Harvard. I've actually seen this.
Harvard, yeah.
And I when I read this, I was like, wow, you're involved in it.
Yeah.
Because I've actually seen it, and they've been talking about it and promoting it to young Black businesswomen for us to apply to be able to do like MBA programs through them.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So it's always been there. This program has existed since I was born.
For real? I had no idea.
The most average, business people in our country went through that program.
Yeah.
It was a program actually that was inspired by conversations between the Archbishop Desmond Tutu and Harvard.
Yes.
At a time when America was kind of keeping their hands off of the Cold War with Russia and all of this, and apartheid in particular. And Bishop Tutu was like, what are you guys doing? What have you done for Africa lately?
Wow.
So that program, the Harvard South Africa Fellowship Program, began in '79.
Wow.
So people like Dr. Ruel Khoza came through them. Lots of people who are notable in our country went through that, and it's still there. You apply every April. No, I lie. Every December,
Yes.
15th of December, applications open, they close. You've got 3 months to prepare yourself. They close every April. Interviews happen every June.
Wow.
And then you prepare yourself for a year to be able to go over there, do your master's, do your advanced law degree.
Wow.
I don't know if they still offer MBA. I don't think they offer MBA. You can still apply for MBA.
Yeah,
There's lots of Harvard has
many.
lots and lots of scholarships. Here's the thing about Harvard. Harvard knows it's expensive and very few people can afford it. So there's lots and lots of programs that allow you to go to Harvard and find funding, and if you're good enough, you get in there. So it's not just Harvard. There are many schools
so
across
Yale
the world.
offering it as well. There's
Yale,
so many.
Columbus,
UCLA.
all over the place.
Yes.
All over the place. And all you need is the thought and the idea in your spirit, and you plant it, and the universe will work it out in such a way.
When it plants, wow.
In such a way that you now meet Lerato, who knows what to do, gets you in. That's how it works. It's not. I remember Dr. Phil was talking to a woman about relationships, and she was, you were saying our voters are apathetic.
Yeah.
This woman was apathetic about dating, and she just like whatever.
Almost like how I
and
almost like that.
And then Dr. Phil asks her, so how do you suppose you're gonna meet this guy? Do you go out? What do you do? What are your likes?
Yeah.
She says, no, I don't. I'm a loner. I don't like to go out much. I go to work. I come home. And Dr. Phil says, okay, so the only way I can picture you meeting this guy is if he falls over your windscreen between work and home. If he falls on your windscreen.
That means he has to be like one of those window washers, because that's
if
the
he
only way
falls
that could
on
happen.
your windscreen between work and home. And all what he was saying is, you have got to create in your mind the environments, the different spaces that afford you. Everything else is not yours. Everything else, God and the universe will put in place and put you in the right place where you need to. But you have to have the ideas in your mind, and everything else begins to work itself out. Nothing's gonna say, Coco, I am Columbus University. I'm offering an MBA.
You need to go out there.
You need to go.
And now we've got social media. You've got Google. So instead of just going there and following that page of that gossip,
and
use your researches. Go to Harvard. Go out there. I mean, you're the perfect example, guys. The opportunities are there. Okay, so this is the most exciting part. Lerato is the national spokesperson for Action SA. Clap twice. And she is also a candidate for mayor right now. Clap twice. I'm so honored. I'm so honored to have you in my space.
Thank you.
Okay, so my question is, why did you choose Action SA, and why should we vote for you?
Oh wow. So I'm going to correct you because the voting has happened.
Okay.
I'm no longer in the running for mayor.
Okay.
I lost.
Well, that's okay.
Another challenge.
Next. We're next.
But on to the next one. Action SA, why? I chose Action SA because, let's start here. Action SA chose me.
Oh, wow.
It found me. I had been looking for a political home. I had been looking for something, that I've done civic education. I was looking for an organization that connected with that mission. An organization that understood that you can't continue to want voters who are asleep, who are not going to question you, who are not going to sit and look at my manifesto, your manifesto, their manifesto, and say, but what are you all saying? And be able to cross-pollinate and say, oh no, these guys are talking about what I want. These guys, that's not going to happen. You only do that when you are well informed. We in Africa mostly are running on the politics of personality.
Wow. That's
so we vote based on who speaks better, who says things better. And we are at a crossroads in this particular country where we can no longer afford charismatic politics.
Yeah.
And so Action SA, when I looked at, first of all, it's fresh, guys.
Yeah,
guys, go to the website. Okay.
I see the posters are everywhere.
It is fresh.
I mean,
guys.
if you don't
It
know
is fresh.
action essay, go on Google.
It is fresh,
Like,
guys.
just open your eyes.
It is a total breath of fresh air
Mm-hmm.
from struggle politics, right? You know, when your mom wasn't in Lusaka, you're like this is like, oh, okay, what did my mom do? What was my mom doing when people were crossing the border? Um, and so it's an opportunity for freshness,
Okay.
for a reimagining of our politics. We can't continue to move into a forward thinking world, a forward moving, a global world, a global politics with politics of yesterday.
Wow.
And our leader, Herman Mashaba,
Mm.
is a self-made man,
Yeah.
is a guy who really is very, very concerned about the future trajectory of our country, and particularly for us black Africans.
Yeah.
Our education is so botched, and as a privileged person, in fact, it is the calling of every privileged person to give back to society. That's what makes you successful. That's what makes you impactful. And so it is important for us to take a leaf out of people like that
Okay.
who can drop everything and say, I am living in a bubble. What we're doing is not sustainable. If I'm the only person at the table, then we're all not free.
Yeah.
And for him to find himself in spaces where he's the only person. So let me give an example.
Mm-hmm.
In my own world, I'm always flabbergasted by how often I'm the only woman.
Yeah.
Like often,
Wow.
not just often, like 90% of the time.
Wow.
I'm the
That is
only woman in the room.
in this 2021.
I'm the only woman in the
Wow.
room, and you can imagine that how many other women like me feel like that. I was
Yeah.
talking to a lawyer friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, and I was complaining and ranting about my experience in politics and how sometimes alienated I feel, and as a woman, and all of this. And she said to me, "Girl, check out the law." She was like, "You have no idea. I am
Yeah.
half the time the only woman." And so
Dominating
and
male
so
spaces.
so for me, it is for me to recognize that and say, if I'm the only woman in the room, there's something wrong with that picture.
Mm.
But because a lot of us have been raised with a scarcity mentality,
Yeah.
so some people will glorify the fact that they've made it because if I could get here, what have they been doing? They're lazy.
Yeah.
But the system is created in such a way that it only pushes through a few. And the only way we're going to alter that is if we reject what the system is doing and have others push through as well. And so that's everyone who knows me in politics now will tell you. I'm like one of the people fighting for us as women to break through, to break through the ceiling.
Wow.
And the saddest part is um, we are ourselves our worst enemies as women.
Yeah.
When we go through stuff half the time, when you're reporting that you've been sexually,
People blame you.
abused at work, that women are the first ones to blame you. I was saddened, when President Jacob Zuma, when he was going through his rape trial, it were women who were at the forefront of that. So our own oppression, if we don't realize our own oppression, I love what Audre Lorde said. Audre Lorde said, "What woman here can be so enamored with herself that she does not see her knee on another woman's neck?"
Sure. That's profound.
Okay, so you can't be so enamored with yourself
That you can't even see that,
that
you're
you
breaking
can't
down
see
another woman.
that your own knee is on another woman's neck. It is the same thing for blackness. You know, how how better black can you believe you are that you don't see your knee on the necks of other black people? And that is why I joined Action SA, and that is what the current ruling party doesn't realize, that their knees are on our necks, and we can't breathe, and we can't breathe. And so we are at a stage in our politics now that we are rejecting that, and we are taking their knees off of our necks so that we can breathe.
Wow, Lerato, wow. Thank you so much for your time. You know, I've learned so much from you, and I know every single person here has learned. This is a phenomenal woman. She is so amazing. I just hope that you can take everything she said and like press. I'm literally going to rewatch this interview and pause and stop and write. And I'm just gonna put all your details up. Where can we find you if we're looking to catch up with you?
I'm so easy to find. I think my number is all over
We just go
South
Google.
Africa, so my number is easy. It just depends what you're trying to find me for, but in terms of politics, it's very easy. I am Lerato at actionsa.org.za.
Awesome.
My cell number, I can't hide it anymore, it's 079 014 2011. You know, all you have to do is Google and you find it and it's there. So
And behave,
it's
because
no
now
longer-
you're a
it's
beautiful
no
woman,
longer
eh?
a
And you
secret.
just put your
I'm
number out
also
there.
on
I'm sure
Facebook
the guys
at-
are just like, yes.
You know, I'm also on Facebook at
Mhm.
Lerato Ngobeni.
Lerato Ngobeni.
On Twitter, I'm at Mika_Ngobeni, because when I got married, I was given the name Mikateko, which means blessings.
Oh, wow.
And so there were too many Leratos on Twitter, and so I'm Mika.
Mika.
_
Well, I'll also
Ngobeni.
make sure to post all her contact details in the bio. Thank you so much,
Thank
Lerato. I feel so
you.
honored for this experience.
Thank you.
That,
This was awesome. Thank you for the
Did you-
opportunity. I
thank you
appreciate it.
so much. I'm so honored. It's real talk, real life, real people making impact in society. Ladies and gentlemen, Lerato.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you.